Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
If I take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island, best believe the list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest breeze on the waters, friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for, we stand for. Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with much fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 ever higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves for people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Welcome to EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses EDDIE-FICATION to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through EDDIE-FICATION, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper healthcare and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cold Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's such a beautiful Sunday. A matter of fact, a scorching one at that. Outside is so blooming hot. A matter of fact, you don't even have to go out of your house to feel the heat. The heat is inside your house. Thank God for air conditioning. You know, a lot of people used to think air conditioning was a luxury. It isn't anymore. It is a bare necessity now. We have to grin and bear it, and of course, be very mindful and be patient with the electric company, Grenlec, simply because there is a great demand for electricity these coming days. Or matter of fact, these few months. And you know what? The weather forecasters are actually telling you this is likely to go even beyond November. So folks, buckle up and get yourselves together. So let me say welcome to Edification 237. Our subject today invites all of us to continue to stay focused. Stay focused so that when democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, we will not have to worry because we are focused. I don't care how much they project all their nastiness on the other side. I am totally convinced, more than ever, as the day rolls by, that hashtag, hello, Keith gone and he not coming back. There is no doubt in my mind, because people who behave like him could never be interested in coming back into office after behaving in this destructive manner. Come on, load up the comment section with this hashtag, Keith gone and he not coming back. Let us send that into the universe, because you know what we send out is what we will get back. Come on, let's agree together. Goodly folks, as soon as you come into the room today, please share, comment, like, love, do whatever you can just to interact as you usually do. Great to have you again. So let's keep this community going and growing. Our angel number 237 is more than likely to assign that your angels are supporting you on your path of spiritual growth and development. They want you to know that you're on the right path and you should trust your intuition and inner wisdom. Seeing angel number 237 repeatedly, though, can also be a reminder that you need to balance your life between spiritual and material needs. Your angels may be encouraging you to focus on your spiritual growth while taking care of your physical and emotional well-being. So folks, get a little spirit-filled and a little spiritual today. Share the life, share the life. He who cannot focus will perish while struggling to achieve his goals. Oh, we are so easily distracted in Grenada today. It's so sad. Every little way-ha, as we say in Creole, we jam in with it, forgetting what we were actually focused on. Focus is essential for productivity, progress, and success, as it helps direct energy and attention toward what matters most. We have to learn to prioritize, break things down into smaller steps, use time management awareness techniques, create a distraction-free environment, folks. In other words, limit or eliminate multitasking, stay physically active, get enough sleep, and of course, position yourself on social media for the things that align you with your focus. Set clear goals. Folks, in order to become distraction-free, sometimes it means eliminating certain people from your space. Some of you are distracted even by your blood. Hey, what he playing? All of we come out from the same place, you know. You see they attempt to anchor you. Sometimes the best way to help those people who share DNA construct with you is from a distance. Otherwise, you become anchored just like them. I have mastered several of these priorities, folks. And in fact, the one I find most appealing, which makes it easier for the rest to be attained, is creating a distraction-free environment, which has meant for me eliminating completely certain people from my space. Wow! You cannot believe to understand the value of this particular one, folks. Goodly folks, when I tell you to stay focused, you all think it's joke I'm making? When you stay focused, you will never fall for cacapool in place of foul egg. Foul egg happen to be the real deal. You will fall for no cacapool at no time at all. You see, Sawandi Fabio Sam, our youthful sage, I have to call him a sage, from the Republic of Guave, he recently opined a masterfully crafted piece which shows the power of youthful thinkers among us. This is a young man who does not live in Grenada. Yet because of his power to pay attention and focus, he can discern so many things and post incontrovertible narratives, which are so compelling by their very nature. Just take a listen to my sharing of his latest editorial piece. Quote, "While all the trouble in the nincompoop camp is widely believed to be nudged on by the nameless, faceless monster, whose latest terms of reference is to wind up her grandmother's companion and one-time lover, sending him out as if with strict instructions to not return until and unless he makes a complete ass of himself. Their surrogates are busy making mischief with teachers and not being paid up to now as a form of distraction from last Sunday's disastrous delivery of their leader." Wow. I never fell for it at all, as I happen to know this situation with teachers has been going on for a long time now. When teachers join the system on contract at the end of July into early August, they are known not to receive their first salary till December in many cases. Go and ask the one-term appointed Public Service Commission of 2008-2013 period of the NDC headed by Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield. The incompetence of the officers in the Ministry of Education, whose standard, quality, talent, and I dare say professionalism have been wanting for years, as a mirror of the political decimation that is responsible for the smashing of the entire public service between 1995 and 2008, and then again between 2013 and 2022. Monies are allocated for these contract teachers, but paperwork holding up the process due to total incompetence, from permanent secretary right down the line, with, of course, a sprinkling of competent officers being smothered in between by stifling their competency after their leg of the work is done. Yet for all, we can hear that one of the current PSs in education, a well-known nasty camp supporter, and other political operatives that the NDC appointed Minister of Education love to have around him, telling teachers that their issue is with the Public Service Commission. That is a lie. The Minister of Education has proved to be questionable because he and all his senior public servants whom he insisted on retaining in the ministry from last administration just because they worked together while he was chief education officer. They grew to like each other, and he is fooled by that. This gives them a free hand to sabotage his backside and the administration's transformation agenda. No wonder it is easily believable that he might be calling his predecessor NNP minister for advice regularly. Shame on him if that is true. Shame on all who fell for the distraction by this teacher salary issue, which was floated by NNP faithfuls, both as teachers and opposition political operatives in the Ministry of Education, who felt really bad about their old leader's dismal behavior on Sunday last and thought they should put this new issue out there to ease up the heat. People, stay focused and stop falling for cacapool in place of the real deal foul egg. I need not say any more. Goodly folks, it is allotted in the universal heavens that people grow, G-R-O-W, that they get rid of weaknesses through the experience of life, to become intelligent and never relax at the thought of completing their journey towards complete intelligence. There is no such thing as complete intelligence, as the intelligence level that may be sufficient for today will surely not be sufficient for tomorrow's challenges and experiences. Life is too dynamic for that. We have to remember that in order to be a winner and remain a winner, we have to constantly tweak our abilities and equip ourselves with the necessary tools to include discipline, commitment, courage, and consistency. The statement, democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, suggests that for democracy to function effectively, citizens must possess a certain level of knowledge, reasoning capacity and ability, and engagement. If they do not have the knowledge, they must be willing to find it, to equip themselves to be guided by it. In a democratic system, individuals are entrusted with making decisions that shape their government, shape their society and their future, primarily through voting and participation in public discourse. When that level of intelligence is present and persistent, citizens will not be easily moved to transact their votes for a mess of pottage in return. They will vote for the greater good and not for what they can get because they are needy, not for what they want more of because they are greedy, and not for what they can accumulate to strengthen themselves over others because they are vultures. No, they would participate because of the greater good of all. For democracy to thrive, an informed electorate is essential. Citizens must understand complex issues, critically evaluate leaders and policies, and have a capacity to engage in reasoned debate. Education which prepares citizens to be fit for life and fit to live with will ensure that citizens choose well the individuals and the talents who are worthy of genuine representation to bring home the bacon to all. You see, without this level of intelligence or awareness, the democratic process can be undermined by misinformation, populism, or the manipulation of uninformed voters and participants in the process, as we have been privy to between 1995 and 2022 for the most part. Just look around you. It is not difficult to see that democracy has been hijacked by the confident dunces who are out there speaking up and acting up while seeking to muffle and muzzle the intelligent among us. It is time the intelligent among us rise up in their large numbers and remain risen up to push these idiots back into their shells of shame on account of their serious lack of knowledge and total ignorance. These characterless people need to be put in their goddamn place. It ought to be a darn shame that the original party that was in the vanguard of ushering in the reinstatement of our democracy in December of 1984 could have descended into this inferior version over time because of the lack of character of the person who seized the leadership from its first US installed leader, Herbert Blair's, just ahead of 1990. Wow. However, this raises philosophical and ethical questions. Should democracy be limited to those with demonstrated intelligence or knowledge? Hello? I would say yes, because this one man, one vote nonsense in a highly unintelligent environment is proving to be a darn danger to our entire civilization. For access to participation to remain, universal, efforts must be focused on education and enhancing public awareness. If that does not happen, I would support the former, as in the meantime adjustment while mandatory education and enhancement of public awareness proceeds. We cannot continue like this with all these dunces being appealed to and their votes being transacted, and decent people have to live under their choice. That could never be right. Only when we achieve a sufficiently comfortable level should we revert to the normal society situation where we can tolerate this one man, one vote standard. Grenada right now needs to halt and reboot. Too many goddamn dunces all over the goddamn place. Call me hard, call me whatever. I firmly believe that democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, and too large a swath of our current Grenadian society, or better put, civilization, cannot measure up at all. And that's a crying shame. And that little old nastiness is responsible, not in part, in whole, for where Grenada has descended into this abyss of hell, because he's been the longest serving leader of this country, and he presided over the decay and total decadence of this country. Folks, let's take a break. You see where this is going, eh? We have a lot more to come. This ain't easy today. So let's take in a little break here and we'll come right back.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safely and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with much fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher, going higher. As we aspire, build up our put people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Wonderful, folks. I think it's Sawandi, just the sage from the Republic of Guam, just indicated here by comment that there should be a basic test that people should have to take to qualify them to vote. Look at how they could not even participate in the 2 referenda that we had here in Grenada. Why? It was not symbols they had to look for. They had to read. And because they cannot read, they kept themselves away from the polls. The message is clear. These people are not qualified. They have no sense of reasoning, no nothing. But they have a Facebook page now and they're doing live. And they can't even talk. They can't construct a sentence. The sentence only full of verb or full of... It's just rubbish. Total garbage. No sense of reasoning. But these people are active participants in the democratic process. One man, one vote. Rubbish, as the Nigerians say. Rubbish. Folks, share the live. Hot under the collar here today. Share the live. We have a lot to offer. So welcome back. 2 weeks ago, I believe in my 235th edition, I touched on an experience I had in a supermarket with 2 local women. One very gracious and the other pronouncedly cantankerous and negative. Of course, I paid her no mind at all, absolutely, and still ended up helping her at the cash point. Well, all I can say is that God is good. And what do you say? All the time. While minding my business away from the madding crowd, as I live my secluded life these days, I received a Facebook Messenger message from a young lady who reminded me of how I helped her some years ago. You would never believe it, but her message was in relation to the cantankerous woman involved in this same issue as follows. Hi, Mr. Eddie. From the time I heard you share your recent experience in a supermarket with a woman who did not even know how to respond to your kindness of paying her bill, I knew who you were speaking about. I said to myself, I have an aunt just like that. She is a person, good person, deep down inside. But somewhere along the line, she has a serious defect. She is a woman who would join others to bad talk even her own blood. She just can't help it. She puts her undying support for the NNP and Keith Mitchell over every and anything else, which makes many of us younger ones in the family believe he must be due her or something. She makes confusion in the family all the time over politics. Many of my relatives back down, but not me. I stand up to her, and even in her total negativity and anger, I love her so much. Because as I said, deep down inside, she's a good person. Something has got to be wrong with her when it comes to her undying support for this man who don't care nothing about poor people, as long as he could use them to get his way and stay in power. She can't understand this. All that aside, sir, I visited her and her family recently, and my mom was also there with her when the conversation came up regarding your program. Her response was, me? I have no time with that man now. He do a little kindness for me in the supermarket, and he had to talk about it on his program. I said to her, Auntie, oh, it was you. But he didn't call your name. She said, no, but I know it's me talking about. I said to her, Auntie, you would not believe, but when I heard him speak, because I listened to him all the time, whether live or after the fact, but from the time he said what he said, you know, I thought of you. It sounded just like you. Tell me it's not you for real. I can't believe it. The auntie said, well, how you mean? Is me we? And that is why I don't like people to do anything for me, because they like to talk about it. I said to her, he had a right to do it. Your guilt that is killing you because nobody knows it is you, as he withheld your identity. Chances are he does not even know you. You are so guilty that you are afraid people will find out it is you. The same way I had the feeling it was you, I am sure other people who know you well have an idea it is you too. But then again, there are so many people like you in Grenada today that he could have been speaking about any one of you. Mr. Eddie, she was not happy at all. You could see how she was embarrassed. I don't know if you remember me, but you helped me get a job a long time ago. And I withheld the name of the place. I am now in mid-management at that particular place today. And I always thank you through prayers for helping me out. About a year after you helped me, I sent my brother to you also, and you pointed him in the right direction where he became employed also. I had to advise my auntie that look at how you helped people in her family, and she nor her children ever got anything from the man she loves so much, except a little hold on here and a little hold on there. Yet for all, she loves him and would watch a man like you up and down with malice in her heart over this man. It is so disheartening to learn that the first time she ever laid eyes on you, you were helping her, and yet for all, she does not see that as an experience that should change her altogether. And you know what is the hurtful part of this all? She says she is a born-again Christian. I don't know which God my auntie serves with that negative attitude. Please help me to pray for her transformation before she dies being the same as she lived. Thanks for what you did to her at the supermarket. I know she would be listening to you and would be embarrassed again over my expose here, but something has to give. All the best to you, Mr. Eddie, and keep on doing what you do. Folks, I needn't say anymore. Truth be told, I do not even remember this young lady whom I helped and her brother. They are just two of many, many, many Grenadian people whom I facilitated to a better life by helping them to secure employment. It is because I saw the potential in them, I imagine, I proceeded to help them. It is for them to remember, not for me, as I did it out of the goodness of my heart. I am glad that it took this incident with a somewhat poorly socialized and thus mindless aunt to bring us together again. I thank God for this. Goodly folks, on a note of responsible opposition, thanks for the opportunity to share something with you which made my Caribbean Perspective News magazine program on Wednesday last. When opposition in the region insists on remaining responsible to reflect the standard and quality of its leaders' character, people who rabidly opposed to the sitting government always tend to call out the opposition for seemingly being too soft on the government. Now, well, this is happening in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis right now, as the style of opposition leader questioned when in fact, that responsible style ought to be the model for the rest of our region if our people were to see true North development. Take a listen to this news item, just for a minute. Take a listen.
Leader of opposition in the National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mark Brantley, has often been criticized for not taking a more anti-government and aggressive stance during sittings of the Parliament. During his September press conference as Premier of Nevis Island Administration, Brantley was asked to address the criticisms that have repeatedly been raised in some quarters. Glenn Bard of SKN Newsline reports.
But I've had the benefit now of some experience in government. I've seen it from both sides. I've had the experience now of age, and I believe with age should come some wisdom. And I'm realizing that the country, already small and already polarized, does not and cannot benefit if the politicians continue to withhold their ideas because they happen to be in opposition. If they continue to lie and distort what a government might be trying to do. So I come here today and I tell you, Aspire sounds like a good program. If it's implemented right, it could be transformational. That's not me abdicating my responsibility as leader of the opposition. When we had our meeting yesterday with the cabinet secretary, we shared with him some views that we had that could make the program even better. I don't believe that opposition is there only to be vitriolic, to be negative, and to offer criticism. If people pay attention to what I've been saying since I am back in Parliament as leader of the opposition, I have tried wherever possible to offer my critique of what is proposed, but also to offer my suggestions as to how it can be made better. And I will tell you that in my experience, you get more done. If you come in and you start to cuss and say, are you stupid and are you crazy and are you this and are you that, the hackles go up and people tend to become very defensive. But if rather you go in and you say, okay, I see what you're doing here, but I suggest that this might help, you find that just the tone and the approach, people say, well, yeah, that's a good idea, let's incorporate it. And you get more done that way. So there will be a time, no doubt, for the politics and the pick-on and the back and forth. But I think the country would benefit from politicians who exhibit some maturity and understand that at the end of the day, a rise in St. Kitts and Nevis, a good quality of life in St. Kitts and Nevis, benefits everybody.
Some political pundits have said the political dynamics in the Federation has been steadily evolving, especially with the younger generation of the electorate. Glenn Barth reporting for SK Newsline.
Now tell me something. Tell me something. When would GBN have that kind of news? Instead of all this rubbish you'll be hearing on them. All the local media houses. When would they have that kind of substantive news? Instead of way-ha. But of course, the news will reflect who the people are that work in those places, because they will look for news to suit them. Nevis Premier Mark Brantley, a Grenadian by marriage, refuses to sink beneath his normal professional level as a successful corporate lawyer, to dive into the lolly drain with the likes of St. Lucia, Trinidadian and Grenadian counterparts, just to name three of the more prominently negative and debased opposition leaders in the entire region. He recognizes the youthful Prime Minister of the Federation, like himself, need a chance to take the Federation forward and its people with it. We have to remember he's coming from a unity government that was decimated by the leader himself, and who is in opposition today, making every attempt to deliver the vitriolic and Mawet opposition his vintage is capable of, without a care as to whether he damages the image of the beloved homeland, so that the new administration will not stand a chance of succeeding. It is my suspicion that Premier Brantley, who is also opposition leader, would not wish that to be his legacy, when he would prefer history to record him as a collaborator on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is what men of substance do, especially when they are properly socialized personally and properly exposed professionally. That is the true character we need to see in opposition, and not one steeped in envy, jealousy, malice, revenge, retribution, and a lust for power, like the old nastiness here, our own tropical Trump, so to speak. You see, just fire these two pieces. The easily brainwashed woman of anger with undying loyalty to the old nastiness, and of course, the model of decent opposition leadership practiced by Nevis's Premier Mark Brantley, and how it is vehemently questioned. Why I firmly believe that democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. Folks, I will go down hard believing that. Let's just take a little break here because I'm getting a little hot under the collar. Good? And when we come back, I'll give you some more regarding why democracy fails, an examination of the pitfalls of self-government. So let's take a little break and we'll come right back with some more.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safely and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Folks, always remember, a guilty conscience fears the midnight knocking. You know, I always tell you, people are not vexed about what I'm saying, you know. They're vexed, there is me that's saying it. It is incontrovertible. They cannot contest anything I say. And they have a problem because it's me that's saying it. Let us now turn to why democracy fails, an examination of the pitfalls of self-government. You see, democracy, often heralded as a pinnacle of political systems, promises a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is not supposed to be how we could become accustomed to it right here in Grenada. Of the thief, for the thief, and by the thief. Its appeal lies in its inherent recognition of equality and the belief that power should rest in the hands of the many rather than a select few thieves and cons. Yet, despite its ideals, democracy has been fraught with challenges, and in many instances, it has either failed to live up to its promise or collapsed entirely. This sharing here today seeks to explore why democracy sometimes fails, focusing on factors such as the vulnerability of populism for the people against the elites, the challenge of maintaining an informed electorate, institutional fragility, economic inequality, and external pressures. So let's just look at them one by one. One of the most significant threats to democracy is populism, that for the people against the elites mantra or ideal that we witness have crept into our construct here in Grenada. This thrives in times of economic disparity and political polarization, as engendered over the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part, leading toward an atmosphere of social unrest almost. Populist leaders often rise by appealing to the emotions and frustrations of the masses, having doncified them, or stoking the fire of discontent among an intelligence-challenged population, presenting themselves as the voice of the real people against a structured and well-ordered political establishment. While democracy aims to provide a platform for diverse voices, populism, for the people against the elites, often oversimplifies complex problems, offering quick, emotionally charged solutions that undermine democratic institutions. You see, folks, in history, we see many examples of democratic nations succumbing to populist leaders who, once in power, consolidate authority and erode the democratic checks and balances that limit their influence. Voila! What do we have here? This happened here under the leadership of our very own tropical Trump. Such leaders often engage in authoritarian practices, curtailing freedoms through intimidation and total lack of and for grace, weakening judicial systems and undermining the media and rendering them totally useless, as has been our very experience here in Grenada. The democratic principle of representation becomes distorted when demagogues, tub thumpers, exploit public sentiment to garner uncritical support, untimely, so in a kind of way that it leads to the eventual breakdown of democratic norms, so to speak. You see, a fundamental assumption of democracy is that citizens are informed and capable of making rational decisions. Hello, not dunce people. However, the reality is that many democracies struggle with widespread misinformation, low levels of to no level at all of civic education, and a general disengagement from political processes. You see, modern democracies, especially in the digital age, are increasingly vulnerable to misinformation campaigns that manipulate public opinion, especially when they know that they have booby-trapped the human landscape and injected dunceness in a plowtox. They can now reap the benefits by throwing out a lot of misinformation that would be gobbled up. But you know what is interesting? You have a lot of supporters or sympathizers of the current administration who, because of their lack of focus, you see them repeating a lot of this nonsense. You see a lot of them calling and asking for verification. Is this really true? Oh God, are you stupid? Stay focused. Don't let dunce people distract you. Social media platforms have amplified the spread of disinformation, and citizens often find themselves in echo chambers, reinforcing existing biases rather than engaging in diverse perspectives. This undermines the very foundation of democracy, as the electorate is less equipped to make decisions that are in their own best interest or in the interest of the broader society. You see, when the electorate is as uninformed or manipulated as ours has been and still is, the quality of their democratic participation diminishes, leading to poor policy choices and governance failures. It is easy for their vote to become a medium for transaction. You see, democratic institutions such as an independent judiciary, a free media, and checks and balances between branches of government are essential for the survival of democracy. However, these institutions are often fragile, especially in newer and less established democracies. Corruption is a significant factor in the collapse of democratic systems, as corrupt leaders or officials undermine trust in public institutions and distort the political process for personal gain. In weak democracies like ours has become, electoral fraud, bribery, and political patronage are rampant, and the rule of law is often subverted, as we who have eyes to see have been able to see during the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part. The erosion of these institutions diminishes the capacity of the government to act in the public's interest, leading to disillusionment among the populace. Look at how many permanent secretaries in the various ministries who remain loyal to that old nastiness. Folks, there should be something in the act of treason that these people should be tried under. They are not working for the states. They're serving that old nastiness. If you ask me, they should be even executed as the final sort of, punishment, because that is an act against the bloody state. That is why I am all for, once you find them in the act, pelt their backsides out. Let them go on the street. These people will hardly find a job at their real level, because you and I know some of them not even a good clerk, but they've been handpicked and put in these positions because the old nastiness could have worked successfully through them, as they owed their allegiance to him, because they would have been nobody if he didn't take them and give them that jump to cause their kajam to be hurting them, because they jump from nothing to something big and they don't realize we're watching them. But something has got to give. There's one who meets at her in-laws, it's reported, with the old nastiness regularly, you know, taking instructions we could only believe from the old nastiness, but we're on to that particular one. As public trust erodes, citizens may turn away from democratic processes, either becoming apathetic or seeking authoritarian alternatives that promise order and stability. To a certain extent, the seeking of alternative authoritarian leadership was envisaged to balance off the extreme in decadence that we were coming from in 2022. Economic inequality poses a profound threat to the functioning of democracy. In theory, democracy is based on the idea of political equality, where each citizen has an equal voice and vote, but you must not be dunce. However, when there are significant disparities in wealth and income, this principle is compromised. With the system being as mangled as it was by the old nastiness himself for such an extended period, where the priority was to duncify and pauperize the masses, the lack of proper education rendered a large swath of our population useless to the society, as their long habit of awaiting handouts from the state for nothing in return has caused them to qualify for the lowest salaries paid, even though they complain about the cost of living. Another area that contributes to this is their habit of taking their scarce dollars to purchase their wants, to look like folks, while they sit back and wait for the state to provide for them their needs. Such people are today getting to realize that they are paid according to their level and will never rise above that until and unless they up their education levels. Better off individuals and businesses often exert disproportionate influence over the political system through lobbying, campaign contributions, and control over media narratives. In such environments, policies tend to favor the interests of the affluent, leaving the needs of the poor majority largely unaddressed. Economic inequality also creates divisions in society, fostering resentment, envy, jealousy, malice, and alienation among those who feel left behind. These conditions can lead to social unrest and, in some cases, drive citizens to support radical or authoritarian alternatives that promise to redistribute wealth to restore fairness, often at the cost of democratic principles. Folks, these are things we must guard against. You see, democracies all face external challenges, particularly in an increasingly interconnected world. Globalization has created both opportunities and vulnerabilities for democratic nations. Economic interdependence means the financial crisis, trade imbalances, foreign influence can destabilize democratic political systems. Global corporations, for instance, can undermine national sovereignty by exerting significant economic influence over local policies. Moreover, don't talk about geopolitical tensions, such as foreign interference in elections or cyber attacks on democratic institutions. They pose new threats to the stability of democracies. In recent years, there has been growing concern over the influence of authoritarian regimes, which seek to undermine democratic processes in other countries through covert operations or even propaganda. The erosion of democracy in one nation can have a ripple effect, destabilizing democratic norms globally. For democracy to work effectively, participation is key. However, democratic systems often witness widespread voter apathy, where large portions of the population do not engage in elections or political processes. This disengagement can stem from disillusionment with the system, a feeling that individual votes do not matter, or a lack of trust in politicians and political institutions. You see, low voter turnout weakens the legitimacy of elected governments, allowing a smaller, often more polarized or extreme subset of the population to influence the political landscape. Over time, this apathy can contribute to the weakening of democratic institutions and the rise of authoritarianism, as disengaged citizens become less vigilant in defending democratic values. As is our case here, and with a few more of them waking up to play their role, the many who do not pay attention, uttering words to the effect that this is not the time, why they have to behave so, forgetting that if ignorance and stupidity is not put in check, the further spread could engulf all of us with absolutely no hope of turning back. And see how the dunce people of our society have become emboldened. They out there, to hell with the proverb, it is better to remain silent and thought a fool than to speak up and remove all doubt. Oh no, they're brave, man. They're braver than that. They don't care whether you're doubting this. They have intelligence or not. They don't care. They're coming out. They're bold. Well, I don't intend to shut up. I intend to continue to let my voice be heard in this country, because mine is a voice of reason. Democracy, while an ideal system of governance in theory, is vulnerable to manipulation, corruption, inequality, and disengagement. If we allow ours to be railroaded by thieves, conmen and conwomen, liars, traitors, crooks, and old characterless nastinesses, puppeteered by living, faceless, nameless monsters that are worth their grandchildren, its success relies on the commitment of both leaders and citizens to uphold its principles, such as fairness, accountability, and transparency. When these principles are compromised, democracy can fail, leading to disillusionment, instability, and even authoritarianism. To preserve democracy, societies must address its weaknesses by promoting political engagement, ensuring equality, and protecting institutions from corruption and manipulation. Only through continuous effort and vigilance can democracy thrive and fulfill its promise of representing the will of all the people. You see why I firmly believe that democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent? And too large a swath of our current Grenadian society, better put civilization, cannot measure up. Folks, we have a lot more where that came from, so hold tight, we're coming back.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is EDDIE-FICATION, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during EDDIE-FICATION are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
In the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. We're going higher. 50 years we're blessed with pushing fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up.
Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Oh, yes, folks. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You know, I want to just welcome you back. But before doing so, remind you, hit that share button. Those of you just coming in, hit the share button and let's get people edified here today. You see, Grenada, a small island nation in the Caribbean, has experienced numerous political challenges since gaining independence from Britain in 1974. While our democracy has functioned in various forms over the decades, there are instances and factors that suggest that our very democratic principles have often been compromised or undermined, leading some to view Grenadian democracy as a farce. But then again, when you see the characterless individuals that we, the people, have allowed to grope the corridors of power here in Grenada, especially between 1995 and 2022, for the most part, and most of whom are in opposition today, showing us who they really are, we don't have to second guess our democracy being nothing but a bloody farce. Several key issues have contributed to this perception, including political instability, authoritarian tendencies, external interference, and a fragile democratic culture that the continuous demonstration of overall lack of intelligence can never solve. You see, one of the most significant events in Grenada's post-independence history is the political turmoil that culminated in the rise of Maurice Bishop of the People's Revolutionary Government, the PRG, in 1979. After a coup ousted the sitting Prime Minister, Sir Eric Gairy, Bishop's Marxist-Leninist government suspended the constitution and dissolved Parliament, effectively halting the puppy show of a democratic system that we practiced under Gairy. While Bishop's government promised reforms and social change, the suspension of democratic institutions and the concentration of power in the hands of a few eroded the foundations of the mamagai that we come to know as democracy. The initial popularity of Bishop's government masks its authoritarian, totalitarian elements, which over a short time became more pronounced. Grenada's political landscape had been subverted by the PRG's control of the media, limited political freedoms, and suppression of opposition. Folks, I wonder which one of the lumpens on the other side could talk and utter this kind of narrative, this kind of discussion, especially in tune with the month of October, which is a very historic month for us. You go and listen to all these old sour grapes, dunces. All they're talking is rubbish as a continuation of their election campaign. You remember the nuns, cake and ice cream, and a set of chuppiness and wait the day, I did the day long, and all this nonsense. They had no message, and they still have none. In 1983, internal divisions within the PRG led to the violent overthrow and execution of Maurice Bishop, and close cohorts, of course, by hardline elements within his own party, marking the country's most significant political crisis. The subsequent chaos and political repression under the military council in just a few short days reinforced the perception that Grenadian democracy was a farce, as the state devolved into total dictatorship, albeit only for a few days. Folks, in October 1983, 41 years ago, the US-led military invasion of Grenada, justified as a means of restoring order and democracy after Bishop's assassination, further complicated Grenada's political landscape. You see, the invasion, codenamed Operation Urgent Fury, was controversial, with many viewing it as a violation of Grenada's sovereignty and an imposition of external control on the country's political future. Grenada was never to be the same again. While the US and its allies restored democratic elections in 1984. The invasion raised questions about whether Grenada's democracy was genuinely autonomous or subject to the influence of foreign powers. The rapid re-establishment of democratic institutions, although successful on paper, was seen by some of the as more of a geopolitical maneuver than a true restoration of Grenadians' self-determination. For a small nation like Grenada, external interference in its political process has reinforced the idea that its democracy has not always been fully independent or authentic, something I agree with for different reasons up to this day. Remember, the hodgepodge alliance called the New National Party was hatched by American influence on Union Island, and Herbert Blair was handpicked to weakly lead this new construct in an effort to keep Eric Gairy from being re-elected. That was the beginning of the downward spiral of our democracy, as it were, even if we were told it was the reintroduction of democratic rule. You see, even after the return of electoral politics in 1984, Grenada's political system has faced challenges from within. Weak democratic institutions and a lack of transparency in governance have fostered corruption and political patronage, ably led by our very own tropical Trump, or Satan's grandson, starting with his own involvement as a minister in the New National Party administration under Blair's. In Grenadian politics, there has been a long-standing tradition of leaders maintaining power by rewarding loyalists and perpetuating a system of clientelism, where voters' support is secured through favors and state resources distributed by political elites. This is where the culture changed to transaction-based politics, and it has been downhill since. This form of political patronage has eroded public trust in democratic institutions. Elections, while held regularly, have often been characterized by a lack of real political competition, with dominant parties such as the New National Party, which has descended into the National Nasty Party, and the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, trading power in cycles. However, these transfers of power have not always led to meaningful policy shifts or improvement in governance, leaving many citizens disillusioned with the democratic process. Grenada, like many other small island nations, faces economic challenges that complicate its democratic processes. High levels of unemployment on account of people's unemployability, gross poverty on account of the dismally poor policies of the longest-serving post-independence administration, led by none other than that old nastiness, and dependency on tourism and foreign aid have created an environment where economic insecurity can undermine democratic engagement. Economic hardships designed by the government's lack of proper transformational policies for the period 1995 to 2022, for the most part, contributed to the population becoming vulnerable to political manipulation, as citizens were forced to prioritize immediate economic relief over long-term democratic ideals. Political leaders have sometimes exploited this economic vulnerability by promising short-term financial benefits in exchange for political support. This creates a cycle in which elections become less about policies or ideologies and more about material survival, further undermining the principles of democracy and making the political process appear superficial and in reality totally transactional. Democracy requires not only the institutions of government, but also a culture of civic engagement and political maturity among the electorate. In Grenada, voter apathy and a lack of sustained political engagement outside of election periods have weakened democratic practices. The current administration is also guilty of this, with only about 4 elected members of parliament rarely continuing to engage their constituents, while the other 6 seem bogged down by their various cabinet responsibilities, surrounded by saboteurs loyal to the opposition as PSs, who they have left in full charge. Could you imagine this? Citizens often participate in elections but remain disengaged from the political process between electoral cycles, allowing political elites to govern with little accountability or even scrutiny. Moreover, the political culture in Grenada has often been marked by divisiveness and personal rivalries rather than ideological, strategy and policy-based competition. This focus on personalities over policies has hindered the development of a more substantive and mature democracy. You see, the absence of robust civil society institutions to hold politicians accountable has further entrenched a political system that sometimes appears more focused on power than on governance for the public good, while the scarce revenues of the nation's coffers are spent by ill-intentioned leaders on retaining power. You see, free and independent media are crucial for a functioning democracy, as they ought to provide citizens with the information needed to make informed decisions. In Grenada, however, media independence has been compromised at various points in its history. During the period of the PRG, media outlets were state-controlled, and opposition voices were silenced. Although media freedom has improved since the restoration of democratic rule in 1984, there are still concerns about media ownership, censorship, and the ability of journalists to operate with without fear of reprisal. This worsened during the period 1995 to 2022 for the most part, as the dictatorial old nastiness ratcheted up the ante to absorb as many gullible and absorbable media players, with very few, I shouldn't even say very few, 1 or 2 exceptions, rendering them mostly useless to our society today. Could you imagine? The old nastiness is out. As we say, #Keith gone, and he not coming back. And they're still beholden to him. They're still afraid, just in case he come back. Could you imagine that? What an awful shame. You see, the control of information and suppression of dissenting opinions have contributed to a political environment where citizens lack the resources to fully participate in the democratic discourse on offer. You see, when the media fails to hold leaders accountable, democratic processes are weakened, and the electorate becomes more susceptible to manipulation by those in power. Today, we see a rise of individuals who have their own channels and social media pages, playing the role the media should be playing, largely sidelining the official media, which by their own unacceptable practices have been rendered incapacitated. Isn't that sad? You see, while Grenada has made strides in rebuilding its democracy after the turbulent years of the late 20th century, the legacy of political instability, external interference, weakened to decimated institutions, and economic dependency has left many questioning the authenticity of our democratic processes. You see, the perception that Grenadian democracy is a farce stems from those unresolved issues which have allowed inferior political elites to dominate the system, often at the expense of genuine democratic engagement and accountability. To strengthen its democracy, Grenada must focus on improving its political institutions, fostering a culture of civic participation, and addressing the underlying economic inequalities that make its population vulnerable to political manipulation and political prostitutes. Only by confronting these challenges can Grenadian democracy evolve from a fragile, superficial system into a more robust and meaningful expression of the people's will. Call me hard, call me whatever. Just don't call me late for lunch. I firmly believe democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent, and too large a swath of our current Grenadian society, or better put, civilization, cannot measure up. Let's take our final break before we come back for our ultimate segment.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This is Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The strength of views and opinions expressed during edification are not necessarily a reflection or representation of the sponsors and/or affiliates of this program.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Oh, I am in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with pushing fire. Still reaching for more. Going up, going up, 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 going up, going up, going up, 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 up. Higher. Going higher. As we aspire, build up ourselves on people together. Bang, bang, bang. It's only up.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Let's see what this other clip here is saying, because I'm just feeling haunted today.
And other persons. I was not meant and others personally, and in effect, and we spoke. Should say some.
I need to hear that again. I can't make out. Could you make out what was said there, folks? Let's hear it again. Let's see if we could untie it.
And other persons. I was not meant and others personally, and in effect, and we spoke. Should say some workers.
Folks, this country really full of entertainment, you know. Full of entertainment. Can't even string a good set of words together. But want to run country. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. And for those of you joining in this last segment, welcome. Hit the share button. Folks, in a recent Facebook post that Lazarus Joseph, he proffered the question, how come them Phoenix journalists and Facebook scholars ain't give the Grenadian people an analysis of the concluded NNP General Council meeting? After all, it was aired for public consumption. What a shame they continue to demonstrate their lack of journalistic testicular fortitude and Facebook scholastic ineptitude. Lazarus asserts that an example of the statement that requires political analysis and debate. Quote, the party leader claims that one cannot be a party sympathizer and want a change of party leadership. The two are not mutually exclusive. It's not a zero-sum game. The Democratic Party in the US demanded that a sitting president not seek re-election, as it was perceived that he was becoming a liability to the chances of winning the presidency next election. However, President Biden at their democratic convention didn't question that decision on the grounds of loyalty. He nominated his successor, and the party endorsed her in the interest of the party. Democracy is not for everyone. We are special in Grenada. So you see, democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent indeed. And you see, the idiot of an old nastiness that expired leader has his dunce party followers feeling to be challenged is wrong. My response? I will always maintain that democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. Folks, it is important that I find time to share a relevant post that one Louis Wan made on Thursday, 3rd October. Quote, when I take a look at what is going on in Grenada, NNP or NDC is not the problem. The problem is some of our people. The government will give them every opportunity to do better. They will not take advantage of them. Then they blame the government. The government will provide jobs. They will not go to work. Then get fired and blame the government. In every country, there are things people can do to help themselves. At the end of the day, Grenada has a people problem, not a government problem. You can change the government, but the people have to change their mindset, focus, and hustle. They have to become hungry. Just saying, mindset is everything. Could not agree with this anymore. I take pleasure, folks, in ending today with a note from inside the NNP to Eddie Frederick via trusted hands. Quote, I am one of quite a few who remain fed up and ashamed of the current state my party is in, which I have been a member of for years now. I have served as a delegate on several occasions and attract the respect and high regard of many within the ranks of the new National Party, which I hear you referring to, and probably correctly so, as the National Nasty Party, which it has descended into. I've been listening to you now for years and could finally publicly say that you, more than any one of us within the party, understand its leader well. You refer to him in all sorts of derogatory ways, and even though privately several of us agree with you, they were never enough to convince us to distance ourselves. The first time I am ever tempted to divorce myself from this political entity is within recent times because of the outright inferior behavior of the current leader, who is behaving like a bad cold that just will not go away. Eddie, you know me well enough, and all in the fullness of time I shall reveal myself to you. I do not allow politics to bring rifts between me and anyone, as I am a true believer in democracy. We all cannot support the same thing, and so I grew up listening to you and never stopped. When you took your sabbatical, I really missed you. I am glad that you are back today to put things into the right perspective, as unafraid as you usually do. You have something that you say which irks the leader of the party. He ain't good and he ain't good long. How do I know this bothers him? Mention has been made of it several times. This caused me to sit up and take note from the time you started saying this, and I have found you to be most correct. I was never close enough to feel his little boy angry wrath via his rants on account of his bullheadedness. But I can tell you, since he has run out of mischief and deviousness, he seems to have lost his way, and at his ripe old age of almost 80, it is easy for his extremely youthful live-in partner to influence him to behave as the maniac he always has been consistently, just without any filters today. It is believed that love for power, revenge, spite, and the evil he is known for over the years are easy causes to fuel him in the direction he is headed currently. You always say he's trying to choreograph karma, and you are absolutely correct. He always said what Blair's allowed to happen to him will never happen to me. I don't know where you get your information from, but you seem to have it well corked and certified. The leader's consistency over the years at being a sadist, a dictator, and a man that is obsessed with power diminishes him, and he cannot understand that. His refusal to sanction the party's convention when it was due, and delaying it to all now with just a hint that it is coming, while scrapping the delegates and putting in people he feels will support him or his choice of candidates going forward, is the icing on the cake for me. These days, when he speaks with party faithfuls, we all can pick up a man who has completely lost his moorings and who would stop at nothing to retain power so he can have full control once more. He only talks about legacy, but his legacy is already sealed in who he is, having hurt so many in order to remain around the precincts of power unchallenged. There are quite a few people this man's treatment of them caused mental breakdowns. This man's way of leading has intimidated so many that they are still afraid of him long after he does not have any power to do them anything. His latest strategy is to make as if the NDC leadership is going to call elections in 2025 on the strength of all they have done in 2 short years, as against the length of time he presided over the nation's affairs and could hardly compare by way of achievements. Eddie, his way of bamboozling the NNP faithfuls is if elections seem imminent, this is no time to call any convention for fear that you change the leader and you lose again. The truth is, whether we enter any election race with the current leader or the main challenger, as you refer to him, we will lose. One way or the other, our party is too divided, and I can see supporters of one side or the other will abstain from voting as the party is currently deeply fractured. The leader's recent Riot Act rant can only be described as pathetic at best, and contributed to an awakening never before seen in the ranks of the NNP. After all, the campaign finances his main challenger would have given to him during last election so the party could pay its bills, together with, of course, all that he got from a junction man. And that's how he wants to treat his main challenger. I can only thank you for helping to open our eyes to the realization of the man who has absolutely no grace, as Hamlet Mark recently put him. Only a true con can behave like this and get through time and time again. Thank God that rope has come to its end. If the NNP wants to stand a chance at returning to office, they have to sanitize, to use your word, and hope for 2032 election. Because from where I sit, the youthful population of Grenada can never be attracted to a party led by any 80-year-old by then, as he's already so old, spent, and expired, far less in 3 years' time. I and all, together with others in the party, will see to it that the current leader goes into retirement totally in the disgrace he deserves, since he is so foolish to allow an almost 40 years his junior, faceless, nameless monster to destroy him. I am very happy to get this off my chest and glad to choose you to share it. Your brawn, forthrightness, and absolute candor have never attracted genuine shouts of "you lie" up to this day. The manner in which you apply to tell your story while voicing your opinions based on facts is convincing enough to all of us with sense who support the NNP. Many of us wished you would stop earlier, but I guess the grace he never showed you when you were friends in the pre-1989 NNP convention, when he rafted the party leadership from Blaze through deceit, fuels you to warn everybody about the devil they are dealing with. He could only be described as a ruptured abscess that refuses to cure. As long as he is around, our party is bound to perish. Eddie, your consistency is winning converts. For sure, you have won me. Unquote. Folks, I read that about 40 times because of who gave it to me. But the person is likely to declare themselves to me personally. See, democracy presupposes its participants are intelligent. Folks, I'm in, I'm out, and I'm gone. Thanks for joining. Continue to share. See you next week at the same time and same place for some more extraordinary programming. Until then, I invite you to stay safe, stay well, remain vigilant, stay focused, and remain lifted. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Just type in my name, Edward or Eddie Frederick. Don't type in no, how you call it? No fake profile. No, Eddie Frederick or Edward. Subscribe, like, and share. And be prepared to receive your mental multivitamins as straight up as I am known to deliver them. To deliver, have a great, great, great week ahead. Take great care.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
This has been Edification, made possible by the efforts of the Center for Democracy and Good Governance, CDGG. The Center for Democracy and Good Governance is a sound organization established to promote and strengthen democracy. For too long now, our generally perceived poorly educated electorate have fallen victim to the cheap and inferior propaganda of those seeking to hold others captive under the guise of democracy. Gladly, the CDGG uses edification to help to actively pursue a sustainable approach to reorient our people towards the importance of electing and selecting people of good character to public life. Through edification, we will highlight the importance of education appropriate to our development, proper health care and facilities as our right, respect for law and order, not to mention upgrading our people's thinking so they could become qualified participants in the democratic process to their advantage. After all, Grenada's national constitution makes allowances for the ideal of free men to enjoy freedom from fear and want, which can be best achieved if conditions are created whereby everyone may enjoy his economic, social and political, civil and cultural rights.
I want the best for my family, so every meal has to be perfect. Every bite has to say, There's no doubt in my mind that the best in frozen meats and vegetables has to come from the Country Cold Store. Hams, turkeys, sausages, beef, pork, chicken. I just don't know my family is in safe hands. Thank you, Country Cold Store, for being there for us for the past 40 years.
There are some interesting specials available at Country Cold Store's Mini Mart while stocks last. Take advantage of these specials as they assist you to stretch your limited funds.
The Country Cool Store, providing the best in frozen meats and vegetables since 1969.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Attention all forward-thinking companies. Sure, you can do with a continuous positive boost to your image and impact your bottom line. Hiring the right people with the right attitude and mindset is where to start. Even if you did not get it right through your current hiring methods, we can help develop the right mindset for your current employees. If you think training is expensive, try not training, and you will experience a perpetual downward spiral in patronage on account of increased dissatisfied customers. Take things into your hands and engage the best at motivation and customer care training with a tried and tested track record. Visit www.efrederick.com now and learn how you can change the atmosphere in your business and improve the customer experience for everyone who does business with you. Spice Island Beach Resort and Belmont Estate are two such local entities of world renown that have benefited tremendously from ongoing customer care, social skills, and motivation training. Training changes everything for the better for any business and every team member. Enhance employee performance through increased awareness and passion for the job at hand. Greater potential in your workforce awaits you through engaged, high-energy training that works. Log on now, www.efrederick.com.
Eddie Frederick has got it all. Inspiration, motivation, great advice, and biting opinion pieces as only Eddie Frederick can deliver. Eddie Frederick has got it all.
Take time and I write down all the things that I love on my island. Best believe my list gon' be like 5 miles long. Best believe it's love that makes me sing this song. The cleanest beers are the waters. Friendly people meet in every corner. Togetherness and love is what we stand for. We stand for. Stand for.
Oh, island in the sun. Look at how we've grown, how far we've run. 50 years we strong and more to come. More to come. More to come. I'm going higher. 50 years we're blessed with fortune fire. Still reaching for more.